is in their pockets today because of the amendments that we brought in. Meaning, 1 lakh income tax in 2014 is zero income tax now. So that money is going back to the people in their hands for those who are earning 8 lakhs. For those earning 12 lakhs, 2 lakh was the income tax in 2014 versus today zero which is proposed. Meaning nearly 2 lakh more money in the pockets of people who are earning 12 lakh. Alright, did I stop it there? As Finance Secretary rightly said, across the board everybody is getting benefit because the rates have also been brought down. Not just the rebates being given to up to 12 lakhs. Rates for everybody is being brought down. As a result, take somebody who earns 24 lakhs in a year. The income tax on them in 2014 was 5.6 lakhs. 2014. For them, now it is only 3 lakhs. The rate change has benefited somebody who earns 24 lakh as well. So 2.6 lakh rupees more in the pocket of people who are earning 24 lakh. So it is not just those who are up to 12 lakh because they are not paying any tax at all, because rebate is given to make up for the tax amount which they have to pay. It is not just up to 12 lakh. Even for others, benefit is accruing, and compared to what it was in 14, that much amount of money is going back to those respective money earners. Just compare it with 24 tax rates, which is prevailing now and what is being proposed. I would like to draw the comparison. 8 lakh people, meaning those who are earning 8 lakhs. 30,000 rupees more is being put back into their pockets, meaning they would be paying 30,000 in the prevailing tax, 8 lakh salaried wale. Now they pay zero in the new proposal. Similarly, 12 lakh salary or income wale would have 80,000 rupees tax to pay in the current prevailing taxation rates. They would have 80,000 rupees now go back to their pockets. They don't have to pay that tax. Go to the 24 lakh and compare with the present rates. Present prevailing rate, they have to pay 4.1 lakh rupees as tax. We are saying now they will have 1,10,000, 1.10 lakh in their pockets, which they don't have to pay as tax. So we have put good substantial amounts into the pockets of people who deserve to get that, and I would want that to be highlighted compared to what prevailed in 14 and what prevails just this year.
Three number. Ma'am, many congratulations. Something that has been quoted to you as well as the Prime Minister and yesterday the Chief Economic Advisor hinted, in terms of disinvestment and where you should not get into, government. You yourself have been talking from 2020, 21 and subsequently, government should be in less spaces. Has it been a strategy? Because I know you're committed to it, but last budget you didn't refer to it. This budget you have not referred to it. The target still remains there. Is there any impetus that you're going to do towards what has already been announced by the budget? For example, bank privatization of banks and others. That's one. And the second because it was unanswered, you're making it simpler, the income tax, and bringing a thing. Does this mean that you can now not necessarily all the time you can do it through a schedule or an executive order if you want to give some relief to a common man in the new income tax bill that you bring in?
No, giving relief any time will have to go to the Parliament, because if we are giving fiscal relief to people, it has to have approval from the Parliament. So but what the tax simplification really means is the complication in the language, the circuitous way in which they were explaining things, and adding too many exemptions. You will realize that when we brought in the new tax regime, we didn't want the old tax regime imitated or copied. In that there are several exemptions given in the old regime. In the new we didn't want to give any, because we wanted a simple, straightforward tax regime in which the rates can be brought down. That's what we've done even now. So the act itself had to be simplified. The attempt now is that.
And on the disinvestment and...
No, all that will continue. There won't be a relenting on any of this.
On disinvestment, if I can add, you see the last time July also the similar questions were asked. We have actually since then a value creation strategy, which was actually well explained at that time also. There is no disinvestment target per se. Disinvestment and dividend are both looked at together because both are money and money is fungible. And it has got 5 elements. The first element is that we are saying CPSC's performance. The second is we say that we should have communication of performance. The third we say that the capex of the CPSC, which is important as you know in terms of accelerating growth. The fourth is the consistent dividend policy. And the fifth is there is a calibrated disinvestment strategy. And the disinvestment also is there. The listing is a part of disinvestment itself. So if you really look at it, both dividend and disinvestment is about 80 to 90,000 crore per annum are being raised, but in a manner which are beneficial to the minority shareholders who are there in all our listed companies.
65. That's it.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Ruchi Bhatia from Bloomberg News. I have a question for the Revenue Secretary and a question for you. If the Revenue Secretary can give us details on the benefits, the number of people who will benefit from the slab, from the rebates going up from 7 lakhs to 12 lakhs. And the question for you, Madam Finance Minister, a lot of people say that while the absolute number for CAPEX has gone up, the pace of spending has gone down as compared to a few years ago. Is it telling of the institutional capacity in terms of how much CAPEX push can the government really do? And secondly, as far as a lot of analysts do say that the multiplier that CAPEX has is a lot more than the multiplier in the economy than that tax cuts have. What would you say to like some of those concerns as well?
Well, 1 crore people will not benefit between the 7 lakh and 12 lakhs.
Meaning 1 crore more people will pay no tax. On the CAPEX, I think there are 2 things playing out. One, of course, this particular year has had the elections happening, and because of that both central government and state governments were catching up with the investments, public spending on investments only from the second and the third quarter, so it showed. It's equally true that when fundamental requirements are taken care of, when you're bringing in additional overhead, there is a pace at which those additions happen. So it's not as if there is no thirst for capital expenditure, but now it will be at a pace in which you can build on each one of the developments that you've done prior. So it will continue. There are some departments which will need more. There are others who would probably reach a plateau, but expenditure will have to continue even in them. So the heads where the capital expenditure will happen will vary, but expenditure will happen in building assets.
121.
No, CAPEX is also continuing. I have not foregone CAPEX to give for revenue expenditure or consumption expenditure. So both continue. Yeah, Ajay.
Look at what the overall numbers are. Even in the coming year, the next year, effective capital expenditure, including what Government of India provides to state for their capital expenditure, is 4.3% of the GDP, one of the highest. It is not just what Government of India departments spend, it is the total money which goes for the capital expenditure. And if you look at that compared with this year's RE, there will be 20% increase. If you look B to B, still there will be a 10% increase. And it is not a capacity issue, it is a new sectors coming up. For example, if you notice, urban sector, the allocations are increasing. That is one area which requires a renewed focus.
121.
On the CAPEX, because this point can come up later also. So one is the capex that we give directly, that is we do a central government directly. Other is the grants that we give to the state governments, for the state governments to do capex, for example for Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, for example Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and so on and so forth. So if you also include the grants and aid for creation of capital assets, the total amount has gone up to 15.48 crores in the budget estimate for the next year, which is more than 15% increase over the current year's RE. So that is a substantial increase, whereas you consider that the overall expenditure, that is revenue plus capital, has grown by around 7% in the next financial year as compared to this year's RE. So this is almost twice the aggregate growth in the expenditure.
Yes. I would like to also add that on top of this 15 lakh crore capex, which is 11.2 there, and an extra money which goes into revenue but goes in capital building at the hand of the states, the CPSE, the Central Public Sector Enterprises, add about 4 lakh crore as capex from their own resources. So that's also the capex which goes in, and that is not counted here.
Mike on. तरुण शर्मा फ्रॉम जी बिजनेस। मैम मेरे दो सवाल हैं। एक, मैम आपने इंश्योरेंस की जो एफडीआई लिमिट है वो 74 से 100% करिए, तो क्या मैम जो इंश्योरेंस अमेंडमेंट बिल था उसकी जो बाकी रिकमेंडेशन है उसको रिजेक्ट किया गया है, सिर्फ इसी को एक्सेप्ट किया है 74 से 100% का? दूसरा मैम, मूडीज ने कहा है कि जो पब्लिक डेट है स्टेट और सेंट्रल का वो अभी भी 80% है, इस वजह से हम रेटिंग अपग्रेड इस बजट के अनाउंसमेंट के हिसाब से नहीं कर सकते। तो डू यू थिंक इज देयर कंसर्न फॉर द ऑन द पब्लिक डेट?
Yeah. See, presently the insurance is 74%. Now, fundamentally, whether it's 74% or 100%, the materially doesn't matter. What actually matters is the psychological feeling that they can actually own the company 100%. Along with this FDI, we are also going to, FM also announced that we are going to simplify certain procedures and rules that we frame, which are including the key management personnel, person who can be chairman of the company, and person who can be the CEO and board of directors, and also repatriation of dividends. All those are part of this, the proposed reforms that has been announced by the FM today.
And sir, what about the other recommendation on the draft insurance amendment bill?
That's what we are actually bringing. The draft insurance bill is the one FM has announced, but the main point she has mentioned that 100% FDI, including simplification of existing rules for FDI investment.
The draft bill is also coming.
Is coming.
Answer this?
Yes. And then the public debt on the public.
Period number 2, Finance Minister has also announced, this answer completes his question, the roadmap for fiscal consolidation by the centre, and please have a look at the FRBM statement which carries the different scenarios, and over a period of next 6 years how that will be brought down. Similar work has to be done through the state governments as well. So it is a process which is on.
Number 2. हेलो, नमस्कार मैम, मैं आलोक प्रियदर्शी हूँ CNBC आवाज से। मैम मेरा सवाल है कि मिडिल क्लास के लिए काफ़ी बड़ी राहत है, 12 लाख तक जो टैक्स छूट दी गई है। इसमें आपने बजट स्पीच में कहा जो कैपिटल गेन से लोग कमाई करेंगे उसको इसमें शामिल नहीं किया गया, उस पर नॉर्मली टैक्स देना पड़ेगा जो स्लैब के रेट से है। तो ज़्यादातर लोग आजकल मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, उनको लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट होती है, उनको कैपिटल गेन्स होते हैं कई तरह से, उनको बाहर रखने का, उनको केप्ट असाइड रखने का क्या रीज़न है, क्या उसके पीछे वजह से? मिनिस्टर सेक्रेटरी उसके ऊपर ज़्यादा विस्तार से बोलेंगे। बाहर रखने वाले चीज नहीं है, इनकम का कैलकुलेशन कभी भी वैसे ही होता है, उसमें कैपिटल गेन्स का जोड़ते नहीं है। मैं स्पष्टता के लिए उसको जोड़ रखा है उधर सेंटेंस पढ़ने के समय। ये नया मेरा पद्धति नहीं है कि इसको अलग रखो उसको अलग। इनकम कैलकुलेशन इन जनरल इज डन विदाउट द कैपिटल गेन्स। यू वांट टू एक्सप्लेन इट?
कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स जो है वो हमेशा से रेट से अलग है, नॉर्मल इनकम से अलग है। यदि नॉर्मल इनकम में शामिल होता तो यदि 30% के ब्रैकेट में कोई होता कि उसके कैपिटल गेन्स में 30% टैक्स लगता, तो वो क्या मान्य होता? तो कैपिटल गेन्स को एक अलग टैक्स की व्यवस्था की गई है जो कि कम है। वो इसलिए की गई है कि रिस्क उसमें है और उसमें लोग रिटर्न करते हैं कैपिटल मार्केट को बढ़ावा देने के लिए, तो उसमें 12.5% हमने टैक्स लगाया, तो वो एक अलग रखा जाता है। उसमें एक अलग एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट भी है। यदि वो एक साल में कैपिटल गेन्स आपको इज इट 1.25 लाख 1.25 लाख यदि हो तो वो एग्जेम्प्ट भी होता, तो और यदि शॉर्ट टर्म हो तो वो 20% होता, तो वो एक व्यवस्था अलग है। और नॉर्मल इनकम की व्यवस्था है जो कि स्लैब रेट और उससे काउंट होती है, तो इसलिए वो अलग ही है। कंफ्यूजन ना हो इसलिए वित्त मंत्री जी ने स्पष्ट उसको कर दिया था स्पीच में, क्योंकि ये कंफ्यूजन की संभावना थी कि सब लोग ये समझेंगे, तो उसको स्पष्ट किया गया।
46 पीछे hello ma'am, Harsh Kumar from Business Standard newspaper. Ma'am, since government has decided to move ahead with a comprehensive asset monetization plan, so what are the new changes from the previous one, and if you can give some broader aspects of it in detail?
See, as we are aware that till the last year, the first program which was launched in 2021, achievements have been of the order of about 90%, which is a good progress. Based on that success is the next leap, almost double the amount which are coming up. And there are newer asset classes will also be come up. For example, transmission assets, and not just of the Government of India. Government of India doesn't own, say, power corporation, power transmission corporation, but state government's assets are also there. So they will do the monetization, and you will hear very soon that entire plan will be out.
Sir, can we, in future, can we get a separate number of asset monetization and disinvestment?
See, this money, what the intent is, there is already an investment, or other the assets are there, which may be owned by Government of India, which may be owned by, say, NHAI, or they may be owned by one of the PSUs. They disinvest, not disinvest, they monetize that asset and use that money to build a fresh or a new project and a new asset, plow back that money back into the economy. So these are not necessarily money coming to Consolidated Fund of India. Very rarely the money comes in. NHI doesn't invest, money remains with them, they build another road by using that money.
13.
Hi ma'am, good afternoon. I am Kriti, I'm from Informist Media. So right now you just said that your fiscal prudence has finally aligned with your glide path that you had announced in FY21. This year you have given a new roadmap, so mentioned debt to GDP roadmap. You aim to bring down your debt to GDP ratio to 49 to 51% by FY31, considering the nominal GDP would be in the range of 10 to 11. So based on that, and you said that you will peg your fiscal deficit in a way that it goes on to bring down your debt to GDP ratio. So is there a rough estimation of what kind of fiscal deficit you may have by FY31? And secondly, on 31, when you aim to bring down your debt to GDP ratio. Secondly, on funding of fiscal deficit for the next fiscal year, you would have brought down the borrowing from small savings from considerably low, 16% low from last year. Is there any reason for the limited optimism? Earlier it used to finance 25% of your deficit, now it's going to finance 22% of your deficit. So if you could just elaborate on if there is any reason for that. Thank you.
First of all, that what is going to be the fiscal deficit in nth year from now. The path is very clear that debt to GDP ratio will be on a declining path depending upon what the growth rate in the economies are, what kind of a stimulus measure or a further consolidation measures would be needed, and the roadmap does envisages three scenarios: mild, moderate and high level of consolidation. So do your maths there, that the range is coming up. In the best case scenario, the highest growth rate and highest level consolidation can go as low as 47.5%. Very low growth rate, etc., it comes to 52. What the goal is taken is 50 plus minus 1%, and that's showing the physical response to needs of the economy. So that is the goal, but overall trend has to be declining trend. And just see the record. 2021 Finance Minister announced will come down to 4.5 next year. This year we are 4.8, next year is 4.4. This is a track record, that's what we follow. Your next question?
Small saving, borrowing for
Small
small
savings. Here the interest rate, if you notice in the last 2 to 2.5 years, are being set in a manner so that there is neither an incentive nor a disincentive to come to small savings. These are the numbers where we see the trend, and based on the trend we project it. What is being overall is being monitored and watched or set is the overall fiscal deficit, overall borrowing. If more is coming in small savings, less from the market. If less is coming from the small savings, more will be from the market. So our assessment numbers are slightly lesser than this year, and to that extent market borrowings we have indicated which will be slightly less than the current year numbers, marginally lower are there. But if there were to be more inflow of small savings, to that extent market borrowings will go down, and as you are aware, we do set the calendar every half year.
51.
Hi ma'am, this is Vikas from the Hindu. First of all, you've left us with very few questions after that announcement on the direct taxes front. And you mentioned that there is a 1 lakh crore revenue foregone from that move, which is obviously going to help boost consumption and demand and private investment in turn. I wanted to get a sense of the mathematics behind the overall fiscal math that we worked out for next year. Because despite this tax relief, we are looking at the direct income tax as receipts as a part of gross tax receipts are likely to rise to 33.7% as per the revenue receipts plan, and which is the highest ever, and marks a significant increase over the 24-25 income tax receipts. So I want to understand what's what gives, how do you work this out? Because on one hand we are giving away significant relief. Where do we expect the gains
I hope
from?
you're not suggesting we shouldn't have done this. Are you? I hope you're not suggesting that we shouldn't have done this income tax, giving money back to people through rebates and other ways.
No, I'm just curious where we expect the buoyancy coming from.
That's fine, all right. Yeah, that's what it was answered at that time. Anyway.
Okay, let me just see, we are talking about personal income tax, taxes on income, and we had 19.7% growth in 22-23. We have 25.4% in actual terms, and 23-24 we had 25%, and 24-25 if you take the RE figures, growth is likely to be 20%. And what we have proposed for 25-26 is a growth of 14.4%. So we have moderated. I mean, we have been growing 20% almost on this plan, and we have made it 14%. Now coming to buoyancy, our buoyancy was in for the taxes on income was 2.65 in 23-24, and 24-25 expected buoyancy is 2. And the buoyancy which has been assumed for 25-26 is 1.42. So you would see that we have assumed a moderate buoyancy looking into the sacrifice of revenue which has been done. So we have done our math. Thank you. 9.
Good evening, ma'am. Considering the government's measure to put more, sorry, this is Chetan from Business Today. Considering that the government's measure to put in more money into the hands of the public, are you trying to mitigate the impact of a possible Trump tariff trade wars from the US, or are you relying more on domestic production to ensure that Indians have a shield from the US trade wars if they happen to be so?
Well, I don't think we've gone that far to justify this income tax rate reduction. We've responded to the voice of the people and also made our own assessments, and therefore we've given this. And I thought there was an allegation also that we didn't respond to what may come through the US administration's tariff whatever decisions. Well, I don't think these two are connected, at least in the way in which we like to believe it. You may want to give a different dimension, but no, we have not done it with that intent.
64 at the back.
Madam, Namaskar.
मैं महावीर सिंह बोल रहा हूँ, फ्रीलांसिंग करता हूँ। आपने इनकम टैक्स में बड़ी राहत दी है, हम तो 10 लाख की उम्मीद कर रहे थे, आपने 12 लाख कर दिए एकदम। और मुझे लगता है कि क्या सरकार इनकम टैक्स रिजीम से हटकर एक्सपेंडिचर टैक्स रिजीम की तरफ जा रही है? जो आप इनकम टैक्स में आपने कहा कि इस राहत से 1 करोड़ लोग इससे बाहर हो जाएंगे और इसमें कम ग्रोथ होगी, और दूसरी तरफ आपका जो टैक्स रिसीट है वो बढ़ता जा रहा है, पूरे बजट का आकार बढ़ रहा है, तो सरकार क्या एक्सपेंडिचर टैक्स की तरफ ज्यादा झुकाव?
नहीं, ये सिर्फ आने वाले साल के, मतलब अभी अप्रैल 1 से शुरू होने वाले साल के टैक्स प्रपोजल्स है। आप पिछले साल का रेवेन्यू को देख करके इससे ये कनेक्शन
बजट के बाद राज्यपाल अभिभाषण में आपको पर्याप्त अवसर दूंगा। मेरा आपसे निवेदन है, नहीं माननीय अखिलेश जी, आपने संसद की मर्यादा को आप बना के रखें। कभी बजट भाषण के अंदर इस तरीके का नहीं हुआ, ये उचित नहीं है, ये उचित नहीं है। अखिलेश जी प्लीज, मैं आपको मौका दूंगा राज्यपाल अभिभाषण पे, प्लीज। नो, ये तरीका ठीक नहीं है। नो, राज्यपाल अभिभाषण पे चर्चा होगी। नो तरीका।
Honorable Speaker, I present the budget for 25-26. This budget continues our government's efforts to A. Accelerate growth, B. Secure inclusive development, C. Invigorate private sector investments, D. Uplift household sentiments, and E. Enhance spending power of India's rising middle class. Together, we embark on a journey to unlock our nation's tremendous potential for greater prosperity and global positioning under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. As we complete the first quarter of the 21st century, continuing geopolitical headwinds suggest lower global economic growth over the medium term. However, our aspiration for a Viksit Bharat inspires us, and the transformative work we have done during our government's first 2 terms guides us to march forward resolutely. Our economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of all regions. The great Telugu poet and playwright Gurujada Apparao had said, "Deshamante matti kadoy, deshamante manushalo," meaning a country is not just its soil, a country is its people. In line with this, for us, Viksit Bharat encompasses zero poverty, 100% quality good school education, access to high quality, affordable and comprehensive health care, 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment, 70% women in economic activities, and farmers, making our country the food basket of the world. In this budget, the proposed development measures span 10 broad areas, focusing on Garib, Youth, Annadata and Nari, spurring agricultural growth and productivity, building rural prosperity and resilience, taking everyone together on an inclusive growth path, boosting manufacturing and furthering Make in India, supporting MSMEs, enabling employment-led development, investing in people, economy and innovation, securing energy supplies, promoting exports and nurturing innovation.
Nothing like it if this budget accelerates growth, if it ensures deregulation to a certain extent and of course decriminalizes initiative. And safe to say, I think we've achieved all of that or at least on the path to.
All three plus more, if I may say, because one big ask was also consumption demand and how do you boost consumption. And I think the way it has really focused on consumption, the middle class, the lower income bracket, the entire focus on easing of tax returns, so to say, a huge focus on seeing to it how we can generate savings, we can ease the type of the basket that we see in terms of a middle income group or a lower income group expenditure pattern in terms of healthcare and food, etc. Brilliant actually. And look at the way one has also addressed the supply side in terms of agriculture, which actually addresses a huge issue. I mean, there are a series of things one can talk about agriculture, but cutting that out of what she has done. But I think to come to the point that eases the supply side of it in terms of inflation. So brilliant, and also the way one sees the investment drivers.
Mr. Mujal, what's been the big takeaway for you? Everybody's talking about the 12 lakh for the middle class, so it's certainly a big boost, but that kept aside.
So if I look at this budget, and you can actually break it up into different components, and of course you said, as you said, the important announcement for individuals for across the country is the big tax break, but it's also interesting that she covered a very wide spectrum, all the way from agriculture to research to innovation to deep tech to clean tech manufacturing to export support to MSMEs, to the fund of funds for startups. But if I look at it from industry point of view, there were 3 or 4 very important announcements which came in there. One, of course, is the financial support, the guarantee support for small industry. In addition to that, increasing the pace of M&A, setting up empowered group to look at all non-financial rules and regulations in the country. We've been talking about this for 20 plus years now. I think this is a very, very welcome step. Somehow it's missed most people's attention. I'm not hearing any noise about this. I think it's critical because so far, for the last 50 years, we've tried to simplify our regulations. We've only tinkered with the regulations, many of them which are over 100 years old. They have no relevance in today's world. So doing this de novo, I think, is a fantastic move. Of course, we wait to see the direct tax proposal which will come in the next few days. And from what she said, that also should be a welcome shift because she said they will be simpler, straightforward, easier to understand, easier to implement, and at least half the size of the current act that we have. I also like that we focused on things like nutrition.
बजट के बाद राज्यपाल अभिभाषण में आपको पर्याप्त सत्र पे अवसर दूंगा। मेरा आपसे निवेदन है, नहीं माननीय अखिलेश जी, आपने संसद की मर्यादा को आप बना के रखें। कभी बजट भाषण के अंदर इस तरीके का नहीं हुआ, ये उचित नहीं है, ये उचित नहीं है। अखिलेश जी प्लीज, मैं आपको मौका दूंगा राज्यपाल अभिभाषण पे, प्लीज। नो, ये तरीका ठीक नहीं है। नो, राज्यपाल अभिभाषण पे चर्चा होगी। नो तरीका।
Honorable Speaker, I present the budget for 25-26. This budget continues our government's efforts to A. Accelerate growth, B. Secure inclusive development, C. Invigorate private sector investments, D. Uplift household sentiments, and E. Enhance spending power of India's rising middle class. Together, we embark on a journey to unlock our nation's tremendous potential for greater prosperity and global positioning under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. As we complete the first quarter of the 21st century, continuing geopolitical headwinds suggest lower global economic growth over the medium term. However, our aspiration for a Viksit Bharat inspires us, and the transformative work we have done during our government's first 2 terms guides us to march forward resolutely. Our economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of all regions. The great Telugu poet and playwright Gurujada Apparao had said, "Deshamante matti kadoy, deshamante manushalo," meaning a country is not just its soil, a country is its people. In line with this, for us, Viksit Bharat encompasses zero poverty, 100% quality good school education, access to high quality, affordable and comprehensive health care, 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment, 70% women in economic activities, and farmers making our country the food basket of the world. In this budget, the proposed development measures span 10 broad areas focusing on Garib, youth, Annadata and Nari, spurring agricultural growth and productivity, building rural prosperity and resilience, taking everyone together on an inclusive growth path, boosting manufacturing and furthering Make in India, supporting MSMEs, enabling employment-led development, investing in people, economy and innovation, securing energy supplies, promoting exports and nurturing innovation. For this journey of development, our 4 powerful engines are agriculture, MSME, investments and exports. The fuel, our reforms, our guiding spirit, inclusivity, and the destination, Viksit Bharat. This budget aims to initiate transformative reforms across 6 domains. During the first 5 years, these will augment our growth potential and global competitiveness. The domains are taxation,
Good evening and a warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha Atul. Now, the Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, today presented the Union Budget 2025 in the Parliament. This budget comes with a huge boost for the middle class, with income tax payment now exempted up to 12 lakh income per annum. The step will provide a major relief for the middle class, which will be left with a lot of money in their hands now. In fact, the TCS threshold has also been raised from 7 lakh to 10 lakh. Now, in a push for education, and these are the other key takeaways that we are talking about from the Union Budget 2025, we are learning the 3 centers for excellence for artificial intelligence will be established. In fact, the capacity of IITs and medical colleges will also be expanded. And meanwhile, the Union Budget also comes with major allocations for coal-bound state of Bihar. Finance Minister Ms. Sitharaman also announced that Makhana board will be established for Bihar and training support will be provided for the Makhana farmers. The budget also aims to boost infrastructure capacity in the state of Bihar and facilitate establishment of greenfield airports in the state. Financial support for the Western Kosi Canal project has also been announced that is expected to benefit farmers of the Mithilanchal region.
Personal income tax reforms with special focus on middle class. Democracy, demography and demand are the key support pillars in our journey towards Vikasit Bharat. The middle class provides strength for India's growth. This government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has always believed in the admirable energy and ability of the middle class in nation building. In recognition of their contribution, we have periodically reduced their tax burden. Right after 2014, the nil tax slab was raised to 2.5 lakhs of rupees, which was further raised to 5 lakh rupees in 2019 and to 7 lakh rupees in 2023. This is reflective of our government's trust on the middle class taxpayers. I am now happy to announce that there will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees.
ये बजट एक फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर है। ये बजट सेविंग्स को बढ़ाएगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ाएगा, कंजम्पशन को बढ़ाएगा और ग्रोथ को भी तेजी से बढ़ाएगा। मैं वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी और उनकी पूरी टीम को इस जनता जनार्दन का बजट, पीपल्स का बजट, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। ये बजट देश के नागरिकों की जेब कैसे भरेगी, देश के नागरिकों की बचत कैसे बढ़ेगी और देश के नागरिक विकास के भागीदार कैसे बनेंगे, ये बजट इसकी एक बहुत मजबूत नींव रखता है।
Let me now bring in my guest who are joining us this evening. Monica B. Sood, who's the CEO of Navjeevan Health, is with us. Also with us is Mr. Ravi Saxena. Monica, let me begin with you. There have been a lot of incentives that have been announced for the health sector. How do you see these takeaways?
First of all, I would really thank Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman for giving us such a beautiful and a wonderful budget today. So as far as the health sector is concerned, see, the exemption of the custom duty of 36 drugs is exemplary. India being a hub of cancer now, and people who are really being troubled with this disease, they needed the cheaper medicines. So on this hand, I would say that it's a wonderful step taken by her. Secondly, the increase in number of seats. As far as I tell you, till today, we have around 7 to 8 lakh doctors, and MBBS doctors in India, and we are in requirement of at least 10 to 15 lakh more doctors. Now, with the increase of 10,000 seats and having 75,000 doctors over 5 years is again a commendable step by her, as this is going to be very beneficial for the country. Thirdly, I would say that even the Makhana project, which has been, proposed by her in Bihar, it has also given a very good kick to our herbal Ayurveda and of course the nutraceutical aspect, because Makhana is not only a snack. It is one thing which is very high in calcium, and it is going to boost the immunity of people. So in this way, she had given so much to Bihar, and again she has focused on the exports of Makhana, which will in turn increase our economy. Thirdly, the Makhana being used in our national, as a national food, you can say, or will be used more over corn, will be used more over wafers, and the potato chips, which are unhealthy, has given one aspect to the health of the youth and of the entire population. So in this way, they have actually taken care of almost every aspect.
But you would also agree, Monica, that is all of this is also keeping an eye on elections in Bihar, and that's why there's so many incentives and infrastructural projects that have been announced for the state of Bihar, because it's definitely poll bound.
See, if we talk politically, now we are talking about budget as of now, and I am not talking politically, but since you have asked this question, you may say that it can be a kind of poll bound, but
I only ask you that question because you mentioned about the Makhana farmers and other things, but let me also welcome Mr. Adarsh Narhari, who is the founder and managing director of Primus Life, who's also now joined us on the broadcast. Mr. Adarsh, would you agree to the points that Monica is making, and are you liking what is coming out of the budget for the health sector?
The budget has been good for the health sector, but if I have to take a bit of a lens of elder care and senior care, there's very little that was done in terms of GST rationalization. What we were really hoping for as an industry is we wouldn't be treated like a luxury goods when it comes to serving elders, and we'd be treated on par with medical services. So that GST rationalization did not happen this time. However, there were some good measures with respect to TDS, with respect to allowing 2 homes, to be treated as a primary residence and not have, any tax applicable against that. So these were some of the favorable ones. But of course, our industry was really hoping for GST rationalization for elder care services.
Okay, so let me bring in Ravi ji now. Ravi Saxena, I'd like your opinion on what is it that the budget really looks at for entrepreneurs in India when it is about investments, when it is about MSMEs. How do you see the budget 2025? Is it really benefiting business owners like yourself? And here also we did see a fair bit of politics thrown in, because that entire rebate on taxation on business owners or entrepreneurs from the SC/ST community, all that bit also was thrown in by the finance minister.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First of all, a pleasure to be here. And what a day. I think it's an incredible day. The budget on a Saturday, stock markets open till 3, jumping up and down, not knowing which direction the budget is going towards, right up till the very end. And I think the Honorable Finance Minister saved the best for the last, and then she knew about it, she was smiling, she knew what is coming, and we were anticipating that what she gave as a gift to the middle class of the country, to the retail sector of the country, to the consumer of the country, I think is just tremendous and unprecedented. So I think till then, I must admit, I was a bit underwhelmed by the budget.
Okay.
There was a lot of procedural improvements, lot of tinkering, lot of regulatory announcements. This regulation has been removed, but this board has been constituted, and so on and so forth. So I was wondering that it's like a COO approach and not a CEO approach. I thought the vision was missing, but I think in one fell swoop she just took away all the criticism that you could probably have and gave a huge gift. But coming back to the larger picture, since you started by talking politics, let me first address that. If you see every single sentence of the budget,
yes,
whether visionary or procedural, was towards supporting business growth in India. know very well that till a few decades ago, budget was more of a rhetorical exercise, that what kind of benefit are we going to get in income tax and what licenses are going to be there and what customs duties are going to be there. It was more a control exercise, not a facilitation exercise. I thought today every single sentence was about facilitation, okay, big or small. Whether it is removal of duties, whether it is facilitation through better infrastructure, whether it is supporting the MSMEs through various ways that the finance minister spoke about, everything was about facilitation. So I think that's the politics of it all. That overall, the government of India is focused on business. Profit is no longer a dirty word. And the government believes that only when the rich become rich, the poor will also become rich. By making the rich poorer, you cannot make the poor rich. So it's not a zero-sum game. Everyone has to progress together. And that is what makes the GDP of the country, and that is what makes the taxation of the country. I think there's a lot in the budget for everybody.
Okay.
Particularly if you see the nuclear power, I think it's a very good step. If you see the focus on artificial intelligence and support to the startups through the fund of funds for venture capital, a huge positive step. A lot of banking support to the MSMEs again. So I think in every which way, apart from the major benefit to the consumers, I think the budget has been very supportive.
And Monica, would you like to talk about these, the maximum benefit also given out to the education system in the country? Ravi Saxena also mentioned about the AI technology, how the government is ensuring that there is ample amount of boost for the same. But practically speaking, how much of that do you really see working on ground?
I'm definitely sure that since the budget has been allocated for AI, and at this point of time, technology and AI is one thing which really requires attention of India. As we are into a growing economy, we are having good control on GDP and a control on, inflation as well. But where we were lagging behind was the research and development and technology. A big substantial amount has been allocated for the R&D as well this time. And moreover, if you talk about AI, I would make a point over here that quantum computing, which is the next coming up tech now, is a hardware which is really going to govern the entire world. And AI is a smaller part of it. And if India has an R&D in that, and India makes India overpowers it or it gets it, then what will happen that we can of course be the super leaders. I would give you one example over here that why China is after Taiwan. I mean, it's off the budget thing, but still I'm including here to push what is quantum computing. China is only after Taiwan because Taiwan is the biggest manufacturer of semiconductors, and so as the US. Because semiconductors is one part which is as a main part for
Monica, can I request you to hold your thought there? We are just getting these live visuals of the Prime Minister greeting the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman post that budget presentation, and these are visuals. And remember, this is a historic day for Nirmala Sitharaman, our Union Finance Minister. This is the 8th consecutive budget that she has presented under the Modi administration, Modi regime 3.0. This is the first full budget as the Modi government returned to power in 2024, and this is budget 2025 that has of course offered a lot of incentives for the middle class. At least that's how they would want it projected as, because that tax slab shift to 12 lakh, and that's the cap that has been shifted to, that is going to get some amount of money, extra money in the hands of the middle class and probably increase their spending power there. But what happens to the inflation, what happens to the non-direct taxes in the form of GST, all that put together, will this come and equate what has been promised by the government is also the big question that is on everyone's mind, because on the face of it, and of course looking at elections in Delhi and Bihar, this really looks like a good story as far as the tax exemption is concerned, especially benefiting the middle class. But technically speaking, is it really is also what the detractors are saying? Adarsh, would you like to weigh in your 2 bits about the same?
Yes, so absolutely, I do think that it would put disposable income in the hands of people. And I'm generally a fan of bringing larger number of people into the tax net, because indirect taxes is the way to go for that. And it's a step in the right direction as far as not burdening the middle class population of the country. I just want to again touch a little bit about the healthcare sector.
Yes.
By 2041, the highest cohort of the population will be older people in India, right? Around the world, countries have formed ministries and task forces to fight the aging crisis that is unfolding. So I was hoping to see some research grants around active aging. I was hoping to see, better allocation for rural India when it comes to care before hospitalization. Because we are never going to be able to meet the global targets for hospital beds, but we surely will be able to keep people out of hospital if we kind of find the reasons why they would go to a hospital and reduce it through, better quality of life. So these were some of the things I was hoping that would be there, but it will eventually happen.
And Ravi, what about job generation? How much of that really was underlined in this particular budget?
A very important point. That is my favorite topic, because India has to be a country of jobs, not of SOPs. And a tax benefit, while we love it, it will boost consumption in the short run. It doesn't make me that happy as it makes a lot of other people, because I know this is short term. We have to generate more jobs, we have to generate more income, we have to increase the GDP. And I thought there were a lot of signals being taken in the budget, very few boundaries, because I think there's a lot more to be done in order to create the infrastructure for job generation. Semiconductors was one thought which was being given. Let me give you a perspective. We are talking about $1 billion fund for startups. We are talking about 600 million, which is 1/10 of a billion, 0.1 billion for AI. Let me put it in perspective. Chinese government has invested $180 billion in support of AI firms last year. Stargate, which Trump is talking about, is a $500 billion project. So 1 billion versus 180 versus 500. So in terms of spending, we cannot outspend these two large economies. That is clear. But what else can we do? I think we have to create an environment where manufacturing will foster. Yes, there is PLI, which has helped a great deal, but PLI needs to be extended to a whole lot of other industries. Today it's focused on certain high-end electronics, etc. Raw material has to be made cheaper. There was some talk about batteries, lithium and these kind of batteries, but that is again a very focused area. Let me talk about steel and aluminium, for example. They are the basic material for any industry. They are costlier in India by far than in China. So if the raw material is costlier, how do we compete? And there is import duty on the raw material import. It should be the other way around. There should be import duty on finished goods. You have to learn from the East India Company, the most successful company in the world ever. They used to import raw material and export finished goods. We are putting duty on our imports of raw material. Then how do we make competitive export goods? So I think there are a lot of these major moves that we have to take. Semiconductor industry will take a whole amount of water, and we know the supply of fresh water in India is already under stress. 38% people don't have access to drinking water. How are we going to support the semiconductor industry? I mean, I would have loved to see, because today this government is in solid power, it's probably 11th or 12th year in power, it's been in power for the next 3 or 4 years, and has been doing a tremendous job in many aspects. It is time for this government to hold the bull by the horns and take some major steps, like river linking project. It is a favorite project of our Prime Minister, but I don't see much movement in that. If there is river linking, if we can bore a tunnel through the Peak Punjab mountains and bring 20% of our water under the Indus Treaty into the mainland of India, because it is just flowing away, it is not being used in Kashmir, and can recharge Yamuna and provide water for semiconductors. If we can do major stuff like that, I think that will boost the manufacturing. Talk about high-speed rail. We have been waiting for the high-speed rail between Bombay and Ahmedabad, again a pet project of our Prime Minister. But there's so many constraints being delayed. The main growth of China and even US, it has come from the suburbs. When you decongest your...
Okay, some problem with that link, but a few important points that Ravi Saxena is making over there. Request Ravi, Monica and others to stay on with us. We have this interview chunk of CNN News 18 Zakir Jacob to play out as he spoke with Ashish Chauhan, the MD and CEO of the National Stock Exchange. Let's listen in to what Mr. Chauhan had to say about the Union Budget 2025.
The budget speech was being made, and right after that the markets were reacting a bit negatively, but I believe now they're also in the positive. What are the big takeaways as far as you're concerned in this budget?
For me, there are three frameworks which this budget has tried to balance. One is the fiscal deficit, which we all watch very carefully. That shows government's resolve to control its expenditure vis-a-vis its income. Budget deficit, the fiscal deficit is now going from 4.9% estimated to 4.8% for the current year, and next year 4.4%. That's I think a great achievement for any government. The second part was keeping more money in the hands of the middle class by giving them tax break up to 12.75 lakh per annum, where you don't have to pay any tax if you are a salaried employee, and that is basically keeping a lot of money in the hands of the families and the individuals. And third is keeping the infrastructure momentum continue. This year, government has not been able to spend as much as they promised during the last budget, but still they will, I think, go up to 10.2 lakh crore this year, and next year they have capped the target at 11.2 lakh crore. So overall, I think these three components have been well managed, and all three of them are going to increase in some ways together the growth momentum going forward.
We'd like to request our guests to continue to stay on with us. Joining us also is Mr. Sriram Balasubramaniam, who's the author of Nirupama Soundarajan, in fact, who's an author. He's also with us. I believe Nirupama Soundarajan also is going to be joining us in some time from now. We have our other guests who continue to be with us. Monica, Adarsh and Ravi are also with us on the broadcast. Ravi, there was an important point that you were making, especially on tariffs, both import and export. Do you think the budget really touched upon that? Because there was a lot of conjecture that was being drawn, and this is right ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi visiting the United States of America on a post-Trump era which will be ridden with tariffs, and this is not good news for India. How do you see India really skirting and probably steering its way through it?
Well, I think, look, India has been a friend to the US in recent past and has been fairly pliant in its strategies. If you talk about deportation of illegal immigrants, India is the first country to raise its hand and say, okay, we'll take back 18,000 people. And it has been seen as a positive because there were illegals there. So I think I don't anticipate a tariff war between India and USA. US also very well knows that its real competitor in the world economically and militarily is China. And the only one who can really be a foil to China when it comes to manufacturing space and infrastructure can be India. And they will support India if we play our cards right. And if we keep our relationship going, and we keep our ease of business going, and we keep our tax structures fair, I think we get a lot of support from India. Because let me give you a little perspective. Again, since the example of TSMC in Taiwan was very relevant, people don't realize that the growth of Japan also came thanks to semiconductors. We think it came because of transistors, and it came because of Walkman and electronics and cameras. Actually, it came because American companies like Micron and Fairchild started manufacturing semiconductors in Japan.
Yes.
And Japan used those semiconductors to make transistors and other electronics. Then came Taiwan, then came Singapore, then came Korea, and now it's China. And India missed this bus. For 35 years, we missed this bus. And now is the time. We need US investments. Like China got turned around thanks to US investments, US technology, and US markets. Here is India's chance. So we have to play the cards right, and I think Prime Minister Modi fully understands that. President Trump fully understands that India can be that friend which will be the balance to China. And I think I see a bright future there if we do it well.
So, Sriram, do you see the budget addressing that aspect, or was it a touch and go by the Union Finance Minister?
No, not at all. I think, the Honorable Finance Minister has often been criticized
in most cases unfairly. Because, you know, if you really look at the last few years, especially post-COVID, it's been a very challenging macroeconomic time. I mean, not just for the rest of the world, but for India as well. So the space really that was there to boost the middle class was there for a couple of years. I think they have done it, though a bit belated, but at the right moment. And this is a huge, push. And it's also important to understand that in most countries, when such tax breaks are given, the entire macroeconomic picture also goes for a toss. But our fiscal deficit is following the glide path. Our investment in capex is still broadly in place. You know, of course, there are some gaps. But despite that, we're able to give a sort of a calibrated, targeted sort of intervention to the middle class. Because if you really think about it, below the 12 lakh threshold, almost, 70 to 80% of the middle class, comes within that bracket, especially the tax-paying middle class. So it's very, it's done in a very targeted and calculated manner. And I think the Honorable Finance Minister deserves a lot of credit for doing this and boosting a lot of so-called animal spirits. The key really now is to transfer the consumption, the consumption potential into actual consumption. So, what do people do with the money? What is the incentives people have with these savings to transfer it to consumption? And I think that's where the entire sort of deregulation, ease of doing business, and all these things also come into play. So I think overall it's a very good package. It seems to be, the nitty-gritties are still there, but I think it seems to be...
So credible budget, 8th consecutive one by the Union Finance Minister, Ms. Sitharaman. I'd request all my guests to continue to stay on with us. We have to go into a very short break. We're coming right back to discuss more about the Union Budget 2025. Stay with us.
बजट के बाद राज्यपाल अभिभाषण में आपको पर्याप्त सत्र पे अवसर दूंगा। मेरा आपसे निवेदन है, नहीं माननीय अखिलेश जी, आपने संसद की मर्यादा को आप बना के रखे हैं। कभी बजट भाषण के अंदर इस तरीके का नहीं हुआ, ये उचित नहीं है, ये उचित नहीं है। अखिलेश जी प्लीज, मैं आपको मौका दूंगा राज्यपाल अभिभाषण पे, प्लीज। नो, ये तरीका ठीक नहीं है। नो, राज्यपाल अभिभाषण पे चर्चा होगी। नो तरीका।
Honorable Speaker, I present the budget for 25-26. This budget continues our government's efforts to A. Accelerate growth, B. Secure inclusive development, C. Invigorate private sector investments, D. Uplift household sentiments, and E. Enhance spending power of India's rising middle class. Together, we embark on a journey to unlock our nation's tremendous potential for greater prosperity and global positioning under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. As we complete the first quarter of the 21st century, continuing geopolitical headwinds suggest lower global economic growth over the medium term. However, our aspiration for a Viksit Bharat inspires us, and the transformative work we have done during our government's first 2 terms guides us to march forward resolutely. economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of all regions. The great Telugu poet and playwright Gurujada Apparao had said, "Deshamante matti kadoy, deshamante manushalo," meaning a country is not just its soil, a country is its people. In line with this, for us, Vikasit Bharat encompasses zero poverty, 100% quality good school education, access to high quality, affordable and comprehensive health care, 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment, 70% women in economic activities, and farmers making our country the food basket of the world. In this budget, the proposed development measures span 10 broad areas, focusing on Garib, youth, Annadata and Nari, spurring agricultural growth and productivity, building rural prosperity and resilience, taking everyone together on an inclusive growth path, boosting manufacturing and furthering Make in India, supporting MSMEs, enabling employment-led development, investing in people, economy and innovation, securing energy supplies, promoting exports and nurturing innovation. For this journey of development, our four powerful engines are agriculture, MSME, investments and exports. The fuel, our reforms, our guiding spirit, inclusivity, and the destination, Vikasit Bharat. This budget aims to initiate transformative reforms across 6 domains. During the first 5 years, these will augment our growth potential and global competitiveness. The domains are taxation, power sector, urban development, mining, financial sector, and regulatory reforms. Agriculture as the first engine. Now I move to specific proposals, beginning with agriculture as the first engine. Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana.
Welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha, and we are discussing the Union Budget 2025, which was presented by the Union Finance Minister for the 8th consecutive time. This is the first full budget of the Modi government 3.0 as it returned to power in 2024, and there was a lot of expectations out of it, considering this is being presented ahead of elections in many states. And 2 poll-bound states become Delhi and Bihar. There have been a lot of incentives that have already been announced for the state of Bihar as one looks at it. Of course, there has been a lot that has been said about an infrastructural boost. There is something for the agriculture sector, a lot for income tax, and how there is a slashing of the income tax rates by the slabs really being associated. So that is something that we are looking at. We have our guest, Mr. Ravi Saxena, who is the entrepreneur and CEO of Wonder Chef, who is with us on the broadcast. Also with us is Monica B. Sood, the CEO of Navjeevan Health. Monica, coming to you, we were talking about earlier about how there is a lot as far as this particular budget is concerned, as far as the fintech sector is concerned. How do you think that impact really will have, the fintech sector will have from this budget?
See, it is going to have a very nice impact, like otherwise.
Yes, Monica, do go ahead, please. All right, some problem with Monica's link. Ravi Saxena, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, look, I would go slightly deeper into that in terms of the facilitation the government is giving in terms of financing for MSMEs. You know, fintech is a part of that. like is there to facilitate peer-to-peer or to facilitate micro enterprises. I think there's a lot of effort to support the MSMEs. As the Honorable Finance Minister mentioned, that 35% of our manufacturing is done via these MSMEs, and a major chunk, almost half of our exports are dependent on these MSMEs. And she has announced fresh loans, credit cards for the micro sector up to with limits of up to 10 lakhs. The limit for credit has been increased by 2.5 times from 2 crores to 5 crores for the medium enterprises. So I think there's a lot of support, there is no doubt. I think this will go a long way in supporting the generation of jobs, as you had mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Because these are the major employers, you know.
And Adarsh is also with us. Adarsh, the Finance Minister had a lot to say about infrastructure, of course, and also affordable housing. How is the real estate really impacted with this particular announcement, and what do you make of the affordable housing announcement, Ms. Sitharaman?
So what has happened, Monica, with all of the raw material increases is the 50 lakh price bracket that was defined as affordable housing.
Yes.
And this was done almost a decade back, if my memory serves me right. It's probably that price bracket is not relevant given the increased value of just the two key components of cement and steel, right? If you look at a building and the cost of a building, and if I take the land out of the equation, almost half the cost is attributable to cement and steel. And if you map that with inflation, that 50 lakh should have ideally moved to something like 75 lakh to make sense. Today, it's very difficult for real estate developers to actually provide a house, at 50 lakhs. So that's something that's remained unchanged. That would have been good to move that to current, requirements. The other thing that happened after COVID is even the sizes of the units have gone up because the people who considered an affordable home are no longer willing to stay in a 300-400 square feet home, right? So the average size of inventory across the country went up to something like 1200 to 1500. And now, so all of this has not been factored in.